Shalom. From the beginning, the Father's unchanging, unwavering, underlying, undenying motivation is to bring all of mankind to life, not life to mankind. His plan and his purpose toward mankind was to bring life out of death and to make that life accessible to everyone who would come to him with a humble and contrite spirit by accepting him for who he says he is. Yahweh is the source of life. And 1 John 1 verse 5 says that life is light. Thus we see Yahweh's desire for a people to live in his life and thereby become a testimony, a light to the nations, to the rest of mankind. Now, words mean things. To properly understand Scripture from Yahweh's perspective, we must constantly be reminded that all the books of Scripture were written by Hebrews out of a Hebrew mindset, influenced by a Hebrew culture that produced a uniquely Hebrew perspective being conveyed primarily to a Hebrew audience, which understood the nuances of the Hebrew language. To properly understand what these words means necessitates viewing them from this Hebrew perspective they were written in, not from our current English culture. In all of Scripture, there are only two categories of people mentioned. There are Hebrews, and then there are others. Those others are called Gentiles, those who worship gods other than the Holy One of Israel. The term Gentile believer is oxymoronic and does not exist in the Hebrew world. The Apostle Shaul, or his Roman name is Paul, spoke to how these demarcations had been resolved in the body of Yeshua in Galatians 3:28. The tradition of man, however, would seek to rewrite history and redefine these words in order to uphold and to fit in its own artificial paradigm what it wants us to believe. The human race is not one, as much as that humanistic approach would like you to think it is. Yahweh is the Elohim of Israel, not mankind. So then the question arises, just what is the covenant spoken of in Scripture, and what does Scripture tell us it really means to be in a covenant relationship? It was Adam, the first Hebrew. Yeah, I said that right. The first Hebrew, not the first of mankind, that was created in the image, in the essence of the nature and character of life, as a statement to the rest of mankind of what it means to live in and be one with the presence of life. Yeshua is called the last Adam because in Yeshua was the life of Yahweh, and the life he exampled in the flesh in obedience to the Father's words was the light of man. Yeshua exemplified with his life the choices required to continuously abide in the presence of life, whereby the choices of Adam resulted in a separation from that life. Separation from life is called death. Bringing life out of death is and always has been the purpose of the Father. The story of the creation of Adam is not the story of the general creation of mankind. That general creation took place in Genesis 1 where we are given an overview of the creation of the heavens and the earth, where in the beginning, Yahweh created mankind, many, and in general, male and female. There was an evil among mankind in that realm that became prevalent in the world after creation. Thus, it necessitated Yahweh's desire to demonstrate in a select people a more excellent way of life. If there was no one else around except those coming out of the garden, then why was it necessary to place a mark of protection on Cain that he not be killed by others, as recorded in Genesis 4? And how is it that he took a wife from the land of Nod outside of the land of Eden before Adam and Chaya, or Eve, had given birth to other sons and daughters, as recorded in Genesis 5, eliminating the possibility of an incestual marriage to a sister? And if Adam was the first of mankind, then why is the lineage in that chapter and expanded on in Luke 3:23 through 33 descriptive only of Hebrews? Now, you have to admit, at the very least, these questions place that Christian theology, for that's where it originates, in some real murky waters. Now, Genesis 2 picks up on the story, but with the focus upon a particular place upon the already created earth, the Garden of Eden. The Hebrew phrase Gan Eden means Garden of Delight. Here we are given specific directions about where this garden was located in the already created earth, and told of a particular man Yahweh had formed out of the dust of that garden and placed there. That was Adam, the first of the Hebrews. It was this particular person he breathed the breath of life into, himself. Now, Leviticus 17:11 tells us that the life is in the blood, and it is the blood that makes atonement, or brings us into at one-ment with the Father by the life contained therein. The life Yahweh breathed into Adam was his very essence, now contained in Adam's blood. In the same way as my son looks and acts just like me because of my DNA coursing in his blood, in spite of how much he would wish it otherwise. In like manner, Adam was fashioned into the likeness and image of Yahweh because he carried within him the vital components of the Father's DNA, his nature and his character, the essence of his presence and his being. From the passage of this DNA, we can determine then that Yahweh is not black, European, or female. He is Hebrew, and he is male. His male is spirit. Not as we consider ordinary men, but having to do with his nature. There was a reason Adam was fashioned first, and Yeshua was born a man, both in the likeness, the image of Yahweh, in both Hebrew. The female subsequently came from the male, which carried the DNA of the Father. Now, if you are a woman hearing this, the immediate temptation is to interject Greek think hierarchy into the equation of men and women and interpret this statement as a subsequent discriminatory role assigned to women. That is not what is being said here. Not here or in Scripture, despite what men may want you to believe to the contrary, to satisfy their own legalistic agenda. Now, each gender has a different function, but they are both equal in the eyes of the Father because together they comprise one flesh. This is why it says in Genesis that the man shall leave his mother and shall become one flesh with the wife. And the Hebrew word for one flesh there is echad, an illustration in flesh of the relationship created in and with the Creator, Yahweh. It is a mystery, but the union of husband and wife is the physical proclamation of how this same unity can exist between men and the one true Elohim of Israel. And what it means to scripturally be one flesh. Genesis 5:1 begins with the generations of Adam, and those generations are meticulously chronicled again in their entirety in Luke 3:23 through 38. Only this time from Yeshua back to Adam, the first son of Yahweh, not the first of mankind. It is to the Hebrew people descended from Adam through Jacob, who was renamed Israel, that Yahweh entrusted that seed spoken of in the verses from Genesis 22 and Galatians 3 that would manifest itself as the light to the nations. That seed was proclaimed beginning with Adam, established in the loins of Noah, ratified before Abraham, sealed in the kingship of David, and culminated in the life of Yeshua, the second son, through whom, by way of, the covenant was fulfilled, completed, and made whole, not ended. And the doorway to life was restored for any who would choose to enter into the present presence. There are only two places where Scripture records the breath of life being breathed into men. The first was with Adam in Genesis 2, and the second was when Yeshua breathed on the 11 in the room just after the resurrection, a precursor to the outpouring of the breath of life at Shavuot, or Pentecost, on as many as would call upon the name of Yahweh. When that breath of life, the Hebrew word nephesh in Genesis 2:7, was breathed into Adam and is breathed into us by Ruach HaKodesh, which is the holiness of spirit that we cultivate in our lives. Through our embrace of the life of Yeshua, we get his life, his DNA. It's a mystery how it happens. But his Hebrew blood begins to course through our veins, and we become as he is, part of his Hebrew body. It is we who are grafted into this Hebrew root, the root of Jesse, not the other way around. I want to thank you for being with me today, and we will pick this up in some later sessions. I hope it was a blessing to you as it was to me. So I would like to say to you all, Shalom.